We're ready if you are.
We're ready. All right, we'll call to order the February 14, 2018 RTC Specification Subcommittee meeting. First item of business is to conduct a public comment period for items on this agenda. Anyone wishing to speak? Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 2, which is approval of the minutes of the December 13th, 2017 meeting. Any comments or a motion?
No? Make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 3 is approve a revision to section 401.03.06D, preparation of existing surface to require the use of tack coat between courses regardless of the time between placement for possible action.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, you'll see in the background on this item that this came to us from Clark County Public Works. Mr. Dunning forwarded the pictures that you see in the backup and had the request that we change the wording slightly to make it possible, maybe not mandatory, but possible to apply that tack coat regardless of, or you don't have to wait till the 24 hours to pass to put that tack coat down, if I understood the request correctly. So at the end there, that's the proposal as I understand it. Maybe Mr. Denning would want to elaborate on what the county wants to do on this one.
Yeah, right now our CIP projects, we have tack coat placed the same day irrespective of what the pavement's being placed, the same length, same day. And the reason why is because we have noticed, I think all of you here have cord holes and the actual core will split automatically because you'll have an adhesion. And that's because if they place tack the next day, it works fine usually. It's the same day paving, it's where it's not adhering. And so it worked out very well for us to place it the same day. It's the photograph we have here of the pavements here, same day paving with and without tack coat, and you see it's a stark difference. This is not just a one-time event, we have it quite often. So I thought it'd be good for RTC to look at this as well, and other agencies to say, let's go ahead and make it mandated that for our protection of our pavements out there, the same day you pave, put tack coat down as well. There is literature that does state the best way to go is that. And so I think it'd be best proposed here is that we all come together here. If you all want to do that, put an RTC, we're going to do it anyway. So, I mean,
Newsflash.
Yeah, newsflash. Well, we want RTC for developers. We want, for sure, in our part, as our area, unincorporated areas, to have it as far as the second same day tack coat, and so we want to have it for us for sure. And if we'd like to have all the areas go along the same thing, it'd be nice.
Well, if we've summarized the desire correctly here, staff would recommend approval.
So is this, we don't know if we have any feedback from developers, or just make sure, I can't imagine this is going to be a make it or break it thing for anybody.
Well, that's a good issue. I mean, there's absolutely no problem in sending it out for industry review. I didn't see that it was necessarily an impact, but better safe than sorry. So we could that could be the motion to send it out to industry review,
Well,
bring it back.
I'm just talking about it. I don't know if we need to or not.
Well, don't talk about it, Jeremy, unless you're ready to do it, because I will run.
I don't want to.
You jump. You tell me how to jump, and I'll ask how high.
Michael, let me make sure I understand. So basically, you're just saying that instead of us requiring tack to any pavement that was 24 hours or older,
Yeah,
it's for anything.
anything.
So it's probably not going to impact the developers that much because they're pretty much paving the same day.
Well, that's true. Here's what did come down to discussion was, is that it used to be that we'd have to wait for some time here, wait for the tack coat to, in fact.
It's got to break over, actually.
So it takes some time to wait for that. However, in reality, they don't wait much time anyway, it breaks and places. But the point here, though, is that they may come back and say, well, gee, we've got to stand down here, wait for the attack, and then we've got to go on the pavement. However, we now have tracked this tack coat. You put right down, and within 20 minutes, you're ready to go, or 10 minutes. So that's not an issue anymore. In fact, I'm not sure now if it is or not. But so that issue on its own does not weigh as far as the home developers. That's the only time they had a problem. So, yeah. We put industry review is for whatever, but,
Yeah, the TAC though, Mike, refresh my memory, it has a water component to it.
Yeah.
So it's got to break over before you pave over it. It's
Well-
got to bust out the water before you throw new hot mix on it or dead pond.
I made
right?
I made a passing comment that we're supposed to do that, so.
Yeah.
So anyway,
All right.
Well, I mean, the safe thing to do would be to send it out for IR. We'll collect the comments, if any, and then bring it back to the committee. That way, you have a complete record, and there's no surprises when it goes to EAC.
gotcha. Good idea.
That might be the safest course of action.
Make a motion, we take this out, send out to IR for a review and come back.
Got a
Sounds
motion?
good.
All those in favor?
All right.
All right.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, we will do that and bring it back next time. Is that clear for the record, our recorders? You good with that, David? Okay, all right, okay.
Okay, we will move on to item number 4, that the Regional Transportation Commission of Southern Nevada Specification Subcommittee discuss the current state of practice and the addition to the regional specifications and drawings a section on horizontal directional drilling operations within public rights-of-way.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this item comes to you courtesy of Mr. Lovett with the City of Las Vegas. It was on the December meeting. He was kind enough to send a model spec that's in your backup. So this is a discussion item, so staff would be hoping that the motion would include clear direction for staff so that we may bring back it in a state of approval next time.
So background on this is, right, and part of the discussion, reason for discussion is just to make sure we're up, if this is the same issue everyone's having. I think more and more that you're seeing the HDD used throughout the valley, and so usually utilities are coming in and doing it, and there's not a Blue Book standard for it. There's not a, and even it's a little hard to find industry standards. So there's some industry standards out there, but we want to have something that we can all kind of lean on and make it safe. Because what's happened nationwide is there's many instances where this causes problems where you get too close to a gas line. You get problems with a gas line going through a sewer line, and you have basically explosions that erupt. There's deaths throughout the country. Not like, I don't have exact numbers, but it's a safety issue because they're drilling lines and not open trenching it. Of course, we're also trying to minimize our cone zone, and that's always a focus for RTC and for every agency to minimize traffic impacts. So we kind of push people to go this way because maybe inadvertently to go this way to keep people keep the contractors out of the road as much as possible. So this hopefully gives us some standards. We'll give some standards to where they have requirements to how they're going to do it, how it's going to be, what tolerances they'll have, and this is kind of a starting point. I don't have any illusion that we're going to approve it today, but I want to make sure that everybody kind of sees the background, take it back to their groups, come back. Maybe there might be some motion to put it to match the format of the Blue Book, because right now it's on the Blue Book format
Right.
perfectly. But if there's, I don't know if anybody's looked at it so far to have any comments on it, but I have you. So go ahead. You want? I'm sure the county has a lot. I expect. I'm open to the county's plethora of comments on this.
Go
A
ahead.
plethora or a cornucopia?
Or pleasure.
Or maybe both.
Pleasure.
Yeah, it might be both.
I just told Michael I'd try.
Richard, he had some comments, we had a meeting back at the, couple days ago, so.
All right. Thank you, Michael. Yeah, I just had some big picture observations, and I had some detailed comments on what was provided in an attempt to be helpful. I think the county overall is not unopposed to having something like this within the Blue Book. I think we're open to it. It might help us with some of our off-site permitting, because we do have, like you said, some communication utilities that like this means and methods to construct some of their facilities. Big picture questions that I'm hoping RTC might be able to help, because I'm not super familiar with some of the specifics of this industry. But it would be good to have maybe presented to us when this comes back, kind of give us some background on some of the state requirements for potholing and what the Public Utility Commissions has for requirements for directional drilling. And because it's highly likely that the Public Utilities Commission has had some discussions on some requirements they've imposed upon themselves. So it'd be good to know what kind of base we have to start with.
Sure.
One of the experiences we've had is one of the utilities actually went through, when they were doing their directional drilling, went through one of our storm drains. So we discovered that through cameraing our culverts after they did the installation. So that might be something to consider putting into the specifications as just a suggestion, because we maintain our storm drains. That would be an obvious facility for us that is easy to camera.
So it's something that says don't drill through storm drains?
And maybe camera the storm drains afterwards
Existing
and,
utilities, all
right,
existing utilities it's crossing.
right.
Right.
So, but yeah, camera our storm drains might be a useful requirement.
I get it. Okay.
One of the things that's in here, I was surprised by, because most of the time when I see directional drilling from the conversations I had, it's for ITS conduit or communication stuff. And there's a section in here that talks about pipe sizes, like lines like larger than like 12-inch pipes, or it talks about large pipe sizes. I think we should probably clarify what maybe some of the intended uses, because I don't think we're planning to do this for storm drain. I think it's primarily for conduit. But I could be mistaken. Is that, I don't know the
You
intent.
do it for water, sewer, everything. You can do it for storm.
What, do we want
Sure.
to, we really want to, okay. I mean,
Really, it needs, I think Jeremy's got the right idea, really, if I can interrupt you. We need something in the spec book, because when you advertise your construction contracts, not even including the private side that use this too, but when you advertise your construction contracts, you need something to reference the horizontal drilling. You know, everything else, we have trenching and bedding and backfill and all that stuff. So, and he's right, a lot of the industry now is horizontally drilling underneath roadways. They don't have to cut anymore. The pothole thing is an issue. They're supposed to pothole at every crossing, by the way. They pothole everything. They identify everything and make sure it's underneath or in between all the infrastructure. And they get approval, but that really needs to be in the spec book, because it's becoming I don't know if you guys have seen the equipment anymore. It's amazing how they can control that, to the nearest inch, move it, twist it, turn it down. It's pretty neat stuff. They can drag the casing through with it, and then they can pull anything through it, conduit, pipe, whatever. I've heard they can go up to like 40 inches with storm drain stuff. Big stuff.
Wow.
We did one under a railroad track. I don't know if you remember, Joe, the flood control that we did underneath the railroad track. I don't know if you remember, but they board and jacked that, and that was 65-inch OD, 60-inch pipe at Colton or Brooks. I can't remember which
Yeah.
one, but that's how you go underneath the railroad. Same deal. So it's pretty good technology, but we need something for sure in the blue book for that.
Yeah, there's lots of, in talking to one of the experts that's done a lot of research into it, he talked a lot about it, and there's lots of different cases. There's the near misses, there's the ones that they go, you might even do a camera of it, and they have it'll nick the side of a water line going by, and then you don't get the failure 5 years later. But it causes that start of that failure. Other times when they go through and it'll be fine on the initial dig or initial bore, and then when they pull it back with a bigger size, it'll hit something. So there's a lot of, it's trying to get some of these intricacies, to where we get what we want and keep it safe. Number one, keep our infrastructure that we have in the ground safe and public safe, because there's times when there's plenty of instances where you go through with they'll sewer line, they have a gas line that's gone through, and gone through a sewer line, let's say, and then they see an obstruction there's an obstruction in a sewer line or a storm drain, and they ream it out and break the gas line, and there's an explosion on one end. There's just lots of different cases. So it's just something we need a standard, and I think it's a starting point, is all I'm getting at. I actually have some comments even from my group that I sent out to just try to strengthen it a little bit, to make sure that we have a survey within 0.3 or 0.2 feet afterwards, to make sure they have a certain tolerance that they're trying to meet, or meeting with their equipment. And they have really high-tech equipment that can meet those tolerances. It's just making sure that they're using it, and that they're doing everything they say they're doing. Because I think what happens is some of them are just going out there and blowing and going, and some are doing a full, doing all the process they really should. And just,
Which is another argument for getting something in the book.
yeah, getting everybody on the same level playing field, and the cost effectiveness of it may actually even out a little bit, because by the time they do it right, it may not be as cheap as just going and blowing and going. But still,
But once
still a
you
lot of
factor
benefits
in,
to it.
if you factor in road user costs, you know, and this method, I'm sure is,
There's still a lot of benefit.
Yep.
Even if it's even, it might be good, just because
Even if it's
we don't have
yeah.
impact to the traveling public. So
That's big.
yeah. So
Were you done, Richard? Do you want to keep going?
I had a few particular comments that are probably a lot like Jeremy's comments, that are going to be just little things by paragraphs, and it's only like 5 of them or so.
should we how should we?
Well, I assume that this is exactly what would happen. We just hold it. We can put it in the format, the Blue Book format, and you guys could go into your separate corners, mark it up, and then we could incorporate it into the next version that is in the Blue Book format and bring it back to talk about again. So I suspect this is going to be a 2 or 3 meeting deal.
Yeah, it'd be nice to get it in by the next revision, but if it doesn't,
When's the next one's July? Are we?
Yeah.
Are we doing
We
it
can
every
adopt
6 months
one
still?
at a time, right?
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't, you know, the revisions to the Blue Book come out twice a year, but once it's been approved by the board,
It's
it can
eligible to be used.
It can be used. It just doesn't show up in that
They
latest.
just don't know about it.
It's in the amended section, in the
Yeah.
revision section. It doesn't get incorporated into the
Published
PDF
version,
documents
yeah.
except twice a year.
Yeah.
So July
Right.
will
Once it's
take
approved by the
everything
board, it's
that's
good to go.
yeah, everything that's revised between December and July are in a holding point
Right.
until July, and then those get incorporated into the document.
Mm-hmm.
So they're there for use once they're approved in the approved section.
Yeah.
So I guess, Richard, are there any items you think need to be discussed, or are they just comments you can send to staff to incorporate?
Well, I think some of them might be productive to have a conversation
Okay.
among the agencies.
Sure.
The first one that's not quite that, but it's kind of silly, is in the description, there's a reference to guidelines, that it says we need to, that the installation shall be in accordance with certain guidelines. For my inspectors, to make sure that they adhere to that, I would like to have a copy.
Where are you reading that, Richard? I'm
first,
sorry.
second sentence of
Good
the whole thing.
practices guidelines.
And that's
third
like,
edition.
so maybe it's a reference to these guidelines, but, and this is the only, some of the only guidelines we're able to find, so should we just have it, the blue
To
book
the
section,
standard,
and
yeah.
have that, this is our guidelines, or, and have that as a reference, or do you, because when would one overrule the other, really?
If I can make a recommendation,
Yeah,
I think you should take this all back,
yeah,
make your comments, we'll get it in the Blue Book format. It's gonna have to go through this committee a couple of times before we send it off to the other committees, so it should come out of this committee the way you want it.
right.
So if you go back, make your comments individually, we'll collect them all, we'll assemble them, put it in the Blue Book format, send it back to this committee to review all of those comments from each agency, and then you can have something to vote on, rather than us. I mean, I'm not saying discussions wouldn't be, but I think that's for another meeting, when you give us those comments and we incorporate them in here, then we can discuss each one of those comments individually
Yeah.
as we go through them.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was only one other thing that I thought was a reasonable thing to have a conversation on was, does everyone, because one of the things it says, have the contractor to make the decision on whether to use the walkover method or the non-walkover method, and I didn't know if any of these cities had a preference on those two methods, or if we wanted to leave it open to either one, because that kind of gets into the details a little bit, but, and a big picture on whether certain sections should be there or not.
What section was that in?
Well, the general statement of whether it should be a walkover or not is in the second section, under terms and definitions, and it's the letter E, and it's boring tracking equipment, methods and systems generally defined as walkover or non-walkover, to be specified by the contractor and used to measure the actual, the accuracy of the bore to specify specific line and grade. So I didn't know if some of the agencies had a preference on those, because I thought.
I think it's hard to do if you go underneath the right of way. That walkover method, if I remember correctly, they have a device that they set over the end of the bore. It helps guide and steer it, and it can also tell you where the tip of the bit is at, or the boring unit. But if you go across a major right of way, usually they don't use that method because all the cars and traffic are out there. So,
Yeah, I think some of our.
but it's probably something we could just review and maybe look at some of the industry standards here locally and make comments on it better.
Yeah, I think the offsiting permitting group was, I think, liked the method because it kept a good log of where it is, and then they were hoping to get the log that showed the elevations and locations of it, and so that could be as-builted in, and that way we have a record of it to share with people in the future.
Yeah.
So I think there was at least, I got the impression there was a desire for that, where it would be applicable. I mean, there's places that it may not be applicable, and we may need to spell that out, but I didn't know if anybody would
Well, can I go ahead and
disagree.
make a motion here that is to put it back, put back in, or hold over till next time. You'd be putting all the various ideas together and represent again as committee as far as the package.
Yeah, just redline it up, put together, send it to me, don't send it to the whole group, send it directly to us. And then if there are any just general comments, like, one Richard just mentioned, you can put that in there too. We'll get it in the proper format, we'll incorporate, we'll use track changes to incorporate the comments so everybody can see the proposals. Bring it back for another discussion item, and then get direction, and hopefully the meeting after that, it could go to approval. Or the next meeting, we could have it down as an approval item, and if it's good to go, just approve it right then and there. If there's still things to be worked out, you can hold it, and we'll bring it back the next cycle for approval. So let's do that. Let's shoot for approval next time. We'll incorporate everybody's comments, and that doesn't put us in a box. You can kick it down the road if you need to. How does the county feel about that?
I still would could you guys help a little bit with some of the background from the Public Utilities Commission and
Yeah.
the state? Because it'd be nice to have a little bit more expertise when we're presented to us before voting on it.
Sure.
So I would
Mr.
appreciate
Chair, Mr. Facilitator, if I can just reiterate what JP said, for open meeting law purposes, if you could please send it to JP and his team, because otherwise with the group, it could be seen as deliberation outside the public forum.
Yeah, so send it directly to me, and we'll call the PUC, and we'll kind of do some of our own digging, and we'll have that in the packet for the next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
You're
So
welcome.
we have a motion. Tammy, is that motion good enough for you? You got it? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 5. That the Regional Transportation Commission of Southern Nevada Specification Subcommittee discuss subscription-based regional access to ASTM International and other organizations responsible for establishing national codes and standards.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is old business. This came up Last time, we did some research, got some numbers. Those were reported as far as costs. The agencies were going to go back and discover where they are already subscribing, which sections are already subscribing, at least to parts of it, and we were going to go and see if those numbers were still good or if those were just one-time Christmas time specials. So Mr. Damiani has some information to share, I believe, on that second topic.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman. So the cost for the subscription based for all 6 agencies would be $15,100. That price is valid. I asked them to extend it through July 31st, 2018. So therefore, if it does determine that that's where we're going to go, it would be the start of the next fiscal year, and we should have funds available to take care of that.
So 15,000 is everybody.
So 15,100 is for both construction and building codes,
Okay.
and it's for all 6 agencies. And how it works is you'll, each agency would provide their public IP address. The IT departments would send that in, and it's by IP address authentication, no software to install, and there's no limit to the number of simultaneous users. So it's, the fee is established on the number of sites.
Okay.
So basically, we'd be able to have 6 different IP addresses that could access this under this subscription, and then anybody under those IP addresses can be going on it at any given time. Then there's also, I asked them to break it out, because if we didn't need both, right, it was $12,000 for the construction and $7,800 for the building codes.
Okay, I want to understand here what's going on here. Okay, when we say construction, is that ASTM ASHTO, or is it something different?
No, ASTM
And
standard.
And ASHTO?
I think it's ASHTO.
No, not ASTM. It's all ASTM standards on construction and ASTM standards in building codes.
Yeah, because for construction, we use ASHTO, not ASTM. So, okay. So,
But I know we reference a lot of ASTM standards.
yeah,
in our
some we do
specs,
with, where
so,
ASHTO's
yeah.
not there, we use ASTM, but everything's geared towards ASHTO in our specifications. So, we already have ASHTO right now anyway for subscription, so. if-
Oh, you do?
Yeah, for about $2,000 a year for that, so, but you have ASTMs, which I know engineers look at as well as designers, but, okay, all right.
But there are still many of the, in the Blue Book and many places where we reference the STM standards. But I know we do both, but this would also give us pretty much agency-wide, like we could have numerous people at each agency being able to access all the STM standards as much as they want, which is right now, like building and safety is the only ones that have ours, and so we have to go track them down from them. It's just a lot, I give you a cost that we pay for. Building and safety keeps all those. We don't have access to it in work, so this would open up to all different groups within each agency, really. I'm generally in favor of it. It may overall be about a wash cost-wise, but the simplicity of having it and the availability, the usefulness of it, I think will really show the benefit, because we can have more access to it.
So would we follow the model that we're using for LCP Tracker, where we would take some money off the top of one of the funding sources, and then we would enter into the contract?
That's what I would envision, yeah.
Yeah. So we'd have to, it would go to EAC, so we were going to take it out of, incrementally out of each of your allocations for MVFT, probably. That's probably the most appropriate.
Yeah.
And then we would enter into the contract. This is exactly the model that was followed for LCP Tracker on the Fry 1 projects. And then that was like, do you remember how much that was, Dante? 10,000, 20,000?
I think it was
10,000 a quarter, something like that. So there's a precedent for it. And then,
Is it 15 a year, Joe, for every year after that, same price, or is it just an updated price? Once you do the one time, is it kind of, you get the access one time, and then all the updates you get cheap every time they change?
Yeah, I mean, you get access to all the updates for free during the year. I mean,
But
I'm
the following
pretty
year
sure
would
it's
be
an
another
annual.
15?
What's that?
Is the following year another 15?
Yeah, I'm sure it's an annual subscription.
Okay. I'll have to go back to Dennis, because the fact we're using ASHTO mainly for construction side, I don't know who would have a lot of the ASTM needs on our side. The building department would, but we're not the same, deal. Okay, I'll have to go back and get back with them and find out if we want to do or not.
Yeah, so that was for all 6. If we decided to do just 5, is there a different price for that, or?
Well, no, he has a single price and then he has for 6.
Okay. So if the county opted out, it would be slightly different,
Just be
I-
more to the other end.
More you gotta win, yeah, right.
right?
And it'd still be
Richard,
cheaper
you
than
have
doing it
something to say?
individually, right?
Go ahead.
I'm sorry,
Um,
Jim?
As long as it's a really positive comment.
Oh, in project review, I think the conversation was, is it possible to maybe get the subscription to ASHTO in addition to the ASTM, because we use that also? And that might be a future item, but
Well, how many
Yes.
here use ASHTO?
Yeah, we reference ASHTO as well,
Okay.
so.
So,
Yeah.
construction is a lot of times.
So what was the reason for wanting access to ASTM, Jeremy?
well, we use ASTM as well, and we have numerous references in the Blue Book
Mhm.
of lots of material things, and it says XYZ must be in compliance with ASTM this, so
Mhm.
you might
It's like
first start
density
there.
testing and all that stuff's all the ASTM
Not
driven.
enough for us.
I think building department, like our land development, kind of brought it up, I think, to our attention first, because I think they deal more with ASTM than ASHTO, but can we move forward, could we move forward with ASTM and then look into ASHTO? It's not like it's gonna be a combo deal, because it's not the same,
Organization.
like, you don't get a combo deal for Netflix and Amazon Prime, you get one, and then you get the other.
Sure.
Well, they're 2 separate companies. This one's through ASTM, obviously,
Yeah.
so they're not gonna be giving me a price for.
Yeah, so we could ask staff to go ahead and check into ASHTO as well,
Sure.
to see if we can do the same
Then-
thing, so.
So I'm a little confused here. So now, they would like that ASTM? or
Well,
not?
yeah, I think there was open to ASTM. I may have misconveyed that information to you, Michael, I
All right.
apologize. But they were open to ASTM. They did ask the question of who would be using it. And then we
They,
talked,
Richard,
at-
is,
sorry,
who?
the various managers at Project Review at the county.
okay.
Just
Just for the record.
Thank you. But yeah, this discussion was had, and it seemed to be that the county was open to the idea of, and saw a value where we would be getting a group discount at $15,000 of, we all pool together for all the agencies in having that product. But the question came up that we use a lot of ASHTO standards in construction and inspection.
Mhm.
So there would be a value for us to pursue that one as well.
Yeah, I would say that you're right on materials aspect, 700 series, most of that's ASTM. And ASHTO doesn't really get into that detail. So I could see, I think probably, since I'm hearing, what you're hearing here, is you're saying, it probably would be a good thing for ASTM. There is a lot on that side for us to have reference to. Or we can give you guys a phone call. But we'll see, big a print of yours.
We'll charge him.
We don't have to, we don't.
If they call you, charge them.
Yeah,
So,
that's the problem, we don't have,
Yeah.
so what I'm hearing
We're
is,
not PDF-ing you over a copy by
Yeah, yeah, we-
ASTM standards.
Email it over, will you?
so do we want to make a motion
$200 a call.
I'll make a motion that we proceed
with,
this.
with the
Let's
group
submit, yeah.
package?
Yeah.
That'll get enough motion?
I didn't understand what.
Make a motion, go ahead and purchase this whole deal you're doing. I'm not sure how you describe this interagency process and.
Okay, so we'll,
The package deal.
right.
Package deal.
Okay, so we'll put together an item, I guess, for EAC that is going to carve out the 15 grand, and we'll split it up, and then we'll proceed with the purchase at the direction of EAC.
Okay, a caveat, a stop loss, okay, or sunset point,
Mhm.
someplace doesn't keep rising until after you're dead and gone. It's still like $20,000 a person to get this thing keep going.
Well, if it's I think
If it becomes,
we're gonna have, there has to be positive affirmative action each year to renew it. I don't think, we're not gonna sign up for any annual renewal fees. I hate those things.
Yeah, I know.
No, and we would write the
Automatic renewal.
interlocal contract between the agencies
Yeah.
to say it's on an annual basis to be renewed every so many years. So that when we have to bring that interlocal contract back to the agencies at a certain EAC, then that could be evaluated at that point as if it's still valuable.
Right.
And if it's not, we don't go forward with it. If it is, we keep it moving.
Sounds good.
And then, so that was a motion to move forward with the ASTM.
And look into ASHTO?
And look into ASHTO.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Well, that was a very positive thing.
I tried.
You just said that the county likes this idea so much that we also want to do it for ASHTO.
Sorry, I wasn't as succinct as that.
Yeah, we
That's-
put down initial comments at the end. You say at the end, we have additional comments and about what's not said right here, right? How great the county is.
Yeah, well, I would just talk, how much the county likes the city's idea.
Oh, I see. I did that part.
Item number 6, that the Regional Transportation Commission of Southern Nevada Specifications Subcommittee discuss topics of interest. Anybody have anything?
Go ahead.
I'm just double checking my notes here. I thought that I had something to bring up. What was it? 221. No, that's for the RPCC, so no topics of interest from
How about-
RTC staff at this time.
I have a question.
Yes.
For our, and not only slightly related to the specs, but maybe all the agencies. So moving forward with, there was in Fry, or Fry 1 projects, there was a requirement for the training and, there's two things, training and. Say again?
Public outreach.
Public outreach.
Yep.
Thank you. Is that still like in effect for all Fry 1 projects? But not,
And Fry 2.
how about for what do you recall, not Fry 2, but it's not called Fry 2, but
It's Fry 2.
Fry
Yeah,
2.
right extension.
Fry extension,
Question 5, yes,
Yeah.
all the same rules are in effect.
although the same rules are in effect for.
Except the prohibition on purchasing right-of-way. You can use Fry extension money to purchase
Okay.
right-of-way.
But the training and
Land.
public outreach is still in there. Okay.
Yes.
Just wanted a clarification on that. I guess I didn't realize that, and we were making an assumption that it wasn't, so I'm glad I asked.
I have something, maybe.
Yes, Abby.
I do. We've been approached by a couple of manufacturers regarding precast boxes and RCAs. So I just wanted to get an idea of how we can bring that to this committee, and since we're a non-voting member, are we qualified to bring such?
Oh, absolutely.
Committee, or is it just, okay, so how do?
Right?
Is
There's
there,
no
who do I
issues with
coordinate with?
them bringing forward a,
No, Mr. Chairman, no.
Yeah, yeah.
Because just get the information
yeah,
to.
Okay.
bring it to us.
What format, how do I don't even know where to start, so this was, having the core drilling was, horizontal drilling item was.
Well, send me whatever you have, and then I'll look at it and give you a call, and we'll get it in front of the
Yeah,
board.
it's just preliminary stuff.
Is it
They
somebody
just-
wanting to do a presentation?
No, they
Oh.
want to add the specs for the precast box and the RCA's into the blue book.
I'm
So I
sorry,
believe
what'd you
that-
say?
Who's
The
proposing?
precast, well, Rinker and Hydro.
Oh, I know what's happening.
It's the same thing?
We don't have any box
We don't,
culvert
yeah,
specs.
so they would
Oh.
like to incorporate it as part of.
This is a good idea. We've been wanting this for a long
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, so somebody just needs to
RCP.
propose the specification and send it to us.
RCB or RCP or both?
RCB
B, yeah, box culvert.
box
Yeah,
and also RCA, so
Yeah.
we were, I guess, trying to push it off, but they're.
No, we-
No,
we
no.
should-
It should be in the,
forward.
it should be in the blue book.
So, yeah, so we need to get that.
And Jensen?
No.
Because
Ring-
those are,
Hydro arch,
Well,
Hydro arch.
Rinker and Hydro arch.
right.
They've
Rinker for the
approached
boxes,
us.
hydro arch for the reinforced
Anyway, that's a
concrete
good
arch.
idea. It's been one for a long time.
So,
For the sink, for the
three-sided.
three-sided box. That's-
Well, now you can talk about, now, hold on.
no,
hold on a
not
second here.
three-sided
No, no,
box.
it's not three-sided.
Not three-sided box, just the precast RCB
We like it,
and
though.
the Hydro arch.
Yeah, send me whatever you got, and we'll get them on the agenda.
Okay.
Who's gonna, prepare it.
Well, that's the other question, so I'll coordinate that. It won't be in the near future, but I just wanted to get that ball rolling and ask the question how I initiate it.
Send it to me,
Okay.
They can.
and then we'll talk
actually-
and get the backup. So, yeah, this,
Yeah,
Something
so,
like this
yeah, that's why I'm like, oh, this is
Yeah, it'll
perfect.
come
So I
up-
have-
yeah, it'll
I have
come up
some sort
to-
of guidance.
yeah, exactly. It'll come up as a discussion item. Give me whatever you have, the more the better.
Okay.
Take it
Send it out for
around,
comment?
send it out for comment, and
Then we can get it in.
I like it. I like it. Need it.
Michael, do you want to take?
Any other items? Seeing none, we're adjourned.
Oh, yeah, the three-sided box.
Chair, I think the final
Monolithic,
citizens
then we had to change
Monolithic?
standards. to
Oh,
call it
wait, I did
monolithic.
forget that, sorry.
Stand down.
We're not adjourned, we're not adjourned, sorry about that.
Yeah.
I jumped ahead.
That's why, yeah.
Item number 7 is the final call to the public. Anyone having anything?
And Mr. Chair, Mr. Facilitator, just wanted to introduce a wonderful new team member for Government Affairs, David Gloria.
Oh, okay.
yes,
Hello, welcome.
thank you. We need the help.
Okay.
You can see that.
Yes.
I wanted to introduce myself.
Maybe not coming.
My name is Gene Christenberry.
Well, that's what I meant. This group.
Hold on.
We got some-
Yes,
Yeah, I'm Gene Christenberry. We are building a new liquid asphalt storage plant in North Las Vegas.
okay.
I've met with Mr. Dunning.
Yeah.
Just wanted to introduce myself to the committee. We've been talking about the specifications for Clark County. Would also like to talk with the other agencies about the product we're supplying. We're ready to start our plant up, and we'll be resupplying liquid asphalt to the hot mix plants and emulsion products beginning this summer. So,
Are you with Las Vegas Paving? Is that who's building it?
it's an independent company called Southwest Liquid Asphalt and Emulsion. So we're a new company, new startup. I myself have been running an asphalt plant up in the Salt Lake City area for the last 10 years, and we're opening another location here, so
Yeah, we expect it.
hoping,
Big one, yeah.
Do you have
Is it
a, do you have a card?
I do, yes.
Okay.
Is it an approved, did you go through the did they go through the
They're going
approval?
through the authorization process now. This plant's not fully operational yet. We've made a plant visit out there, so.
It's not painted.
Pardon?
Well, tanks aren't even finished yet, right?
They're not complete. They're standing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of the tanks have been, the permits have been completed except the last one. So we're still under construction as far as insulating some of the final tanks, but we're very close to being ready to put out product. So,
Cool.
Is the plan that it'd be on the IQAC list, or?
They're not on a list like that. In fact, we have a list for authorized facilities. Right now, I have Ergon, Alon, and also down to be a third buyer supplier in town, be 3 of them then.
Okay.
So would, maybe a formal presentation to the group
I think good.
be warranted?
That'd be good.
Sure.
Yeah.
Any specific thing that you're interested in?
About you.
Yeah, just what you,
What you do, what you
Product.
provide,
Yep.
and what the benefit to our community would be.
Okay. Polymer modified emulsions, all that type of
Everything,
thing?
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good. I also wanted to bring up, we have been discussing supplying a performance-graded binder instead of a AC binder. Performance-graded just means it's tested at cold and hot properties to make sure that it performs well versus an AC viscosity that's just a test the viscosity of the product. So I hope that
Yeah, Clark County is all for that. So the best thing to do is bring a presentation at the time, talk about that.
Okay.
And we can talk together how you want to do that as well. We've already had a conversation about that. AC grade is antiquated, always has been. Trying to go to the in PG, 64 minus 22 is basically the range in AC. And all you do is make a name change and add a better polymer to make it work. So I think it's a very good thing to talk about and to change the specs for, but take some conversation.
yeah, the next, meeting would be, we skip a month, so this is February, okay, hang on a second here. We're the February 14th, so the next one will be April 11th. So if you could, we're gonna need the presentation, typically our deadline is 2 weeks before that. Right?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we would need to have the presentation, basically the first couple days of April.
Okay.
And, I'll get you, my contact information, and you can send it to me, and we'll get it on, the agenda for April 11th.
Very good.
Any other items for the call to the public? Okay, with that, now we're adjourned.
All right,
Thank
thank
you.
you, everyone.
Chair, thank you.